I can't believe it. This is my 10th episode of Standing Room Only. I wanted to celebrate our two biggest episodes so far, one about Mar-a-Lago face and the other one about AOC, by highlighting some of the brilliant comments that you left underneath. I just want to thank you all for watching. To my longtime readers at Salon, thanks for coming over to my YouTube era. And to all of you who found me on YouTube or in your podcast feed, thank you for liking, subscribing, and choosing Standing Room Only. Here are my favorite comments from the Mar-a-Lago face episode. We talked about Donald Trump and why he surrounds himself with plastic surgery victims. Think Kimberly Guilfoyle, Lara Trump, Kristi Noem, and of course the OG Melania Trump. From Mrs. Richie Blackmore, that sort of plastic surgery makes everyone look 40, whether you're 20 or 80. It's very weird. Yeah, we did another episode about Caroline Leavitt, and that's sort of happening to her face. You wouldn't know that she's not even 30 years old yet. And I kind of think that's the point. It's the vampire look, right? They're trying to look timeless and sinister at the same time, so it's not supposed to be hot. It's supposed to be kind of scary. From the Crone's Eye, they're just doing drag badly. Is that fair? Is that fair to drag queens? First of all, drag queens want their faces to be expressive, not unable to smile any longer. Second of all these women could take just so many makeup tips from drag queens. I really wish that they would, because there's contouring and there's contouring without blending. From Hope K 7033. I thought we all agreed in this country that Kristi Noem is a terrible person because she murdered her pets. We didn't talk about the dog killing on that episode. I felt like at a certain point the dog killing had been done to death. And also, it really has nothing to do with like the amount of Botox she's gotten, unless like they're growing Botox in dead dogs, which maybe. Truly, poor Cricket. It broke my heart. That dog sounded like a sweet dog, and I think that was part of the reason she told that story, right? Was I will shoot a sweet dog in the face because that's how evil I am, and it's become her persona, like Ice Barbie. Is just that. Like, I'm gonna take all these people and I'm gonna put them in an El Salvador prison and I'm gonna pose in front of it like I'm some kind of comic book villain, and that's her shtick, and apparently it works for her. People are into it. From Ad K Dan. I came of age in the 1970s when a woman didn't have to try for overt beauty. Their power was found in their genuine female talents, focused on internal beauty, selfless empathy, aesthetic creativity, emotional intelligence. These are all the things that women admire because we aren't as strong in those areas. I appreciate you, Dan. I do. But I don't know how helpful this is, really. You've made me feel sorry for the women with Mar-a-Lago face. I think what we need to talk about more is less women's internal feminine beauty and innate and feminine talents, and talk more about letting everybody be who they are, regardless of gender, instead of trying to force people into buckets, which is actually kind of what the Mar-a-Lago face is about. It's about trying to perform gender in this really stereotyped ways. And the way we get away from that is to not stereotype people. It's not super funny, but we still appreciate you, Dan. From Herman Klump. Great name, Herman. Love you. 8983. She's not playing dumb, she is dumb. This was a point of major debate in the comments. Is she dumb? Is she playing dumb? And I think to a certain point, this is arguing angels on the head of a pin. Because both can be true to a large extent, right? She acts dumb in a way that is like, it's impossible for a human being to be that dumb. Like, can she brush her teeth? Can she put that Rolex watch on? Yes, I think she's capable of basic adult stuff. So when she says extremely dumb crap,
thousands of calls from flood victims to FEMA call centers went unanswered in the middle of this ongoing disaster because you didn't renew contracts to keep call center staff in place until nearly 1 week after the floods. Why did it take so long to extend those contracts?
It's just false. Those contracts were in place.
Nobody, it didn't take 5 days?
No employees were off of work. Every one of them was answering calls. So false reporting, fake news.
We know that she's faking it. And also sometimes she will contradict herself in ways that suggest she was faking it. So she is playing dumb. And I would say she's so good at it because, you know, I grew up in a conservative rural community, and it's a real talent that women have. You learn that if you play dumb, you can often extract all sorts of stuff out of men. I have talked my way out of so many traffic tickets. I am a little ashamed of this, actually. You know, it's a skill. She's using it for true evil, but I see game recognizes game, and I know when somebody's pretending to be stupid because that's what the men around her want to see in her. From Iris McKay, 6472. I don't know if I need to be reading everybody's little numbers, but I just kind of enjoy it. Like were there 6,471 Iris McKays before no, I'm just not going down this rabbit hole, sorry. As a family lawyer who advocates for children and families, I've noticed that Trump's women seem to have a dark victim-y side to them. Because I work with a lot of psychologists who also have concerns about these women being role models for young girls. The question is always, what trauma happened to you as a child that would cause you to sell out your gender for some attention? Do you have daddy issues? Maybe. But I think the trauma that like all women are living with is the patriarchy. Every woman is coping with the fact that you are born as in a world that says you're second best, and different women deal with that in different ways. Some women deal with it like me by rebelling and becoming feminists. A lot of women, unfortunately, decide that complicity is what will save them. And they see that if you cater to men's sexism, you will often be given some amount of power, some amount of wealth. You know, Kristi Noem is a really good example of this. I mean, she did it all the way up into a high-ranking position in the government. It is a bad role model for girls because it is teaching them to turn on each other and to stab each other in the back. And I believe as a feminist, if we had solidarity and fought the patriarchy together, we wouldn't have to do this to each other or do this to ourselves anymore. I do understand why women go down this path because they see it as the only viable way to have even a fraction of what men have in their view. And here are my favorite comments from why Trump is terrified of AOC about the Democratic Congresswoman if she runs in 2028 and why MAGA is afraid that she will. Swiss Army Knight 4306. I love how they will simultaneously argue that she grew up rich and attack her for being a bartender. Mutually exclusive, but the right doesn't have to make sense. Yeah, and I highly recommend watching the last episode. It's about Brett Cooper, but my guest, Kat Tenbarge, and I get into this. We talk about how the right constantly contradicts themselves because it's all about vibes, man. They're just putting out a bunch of emotion and it's chaotic and whatever you can kind of grab onto. But I think there is something in that. There's a shotgun approach to rhetoric, right? Are you resentful of rich people? Well, we have a lie for you. Do you hate bartenders because you are a rich person and you think that they're snooty? We also have a lie for you. Like whatever your flavor of hate is, they have it on display. From Mike's Organic Videos. I am in the older demographic, but except for some of the latest technology, some urban slang, and some pop music, I am not out of touch. But I also believe that most of the old guard Democratic leaders are old and out of touch. And they need to be replaced by younger progressive candidates, not moderate, not centrist, progressive, like AOC, because that is the future of the Democratic Party if we want to defeat fascism. We can't be Republican light. And Mike, I agree with you. I am also older than AOC. So this was not supposed to be like intergenerational warfare. It was inter-Chuck Schumer warfare, I guess. But jokes aside, I think there is a lot to be said about how appealing it is to be seen as a party that claims to be about progress and claims to be about the future, stepping aside, the older leaders stepping aside to let the younger people in and let them lead and really giving them opportunities. We can't just always be saying what we're for as progressives. We have to be modeling what we're for. And the way you model the future is you empower people to be the future, which means, yes, letting young progressives be in leadership. From Kelly Blue, and this one was asked of me on Blue Sky, so thank you, Kelly. Like the plurality of Democrats in that CNN poll in March, I believe that among our leaders, AOC best represents my core values. However, some of her critics say that she's not an effective legislator, meaning she doesn't get many bills passed. What do you think is going on with that? I think that's a straw that people are hanging on to discredit her, because the reality is nobody's getting bills passed. Like, the Republicans are in the majority right now, and they got one bill passed, and that's probably the only bill they're going to get passed. The Democrats did a little bit better under Joe Biden, but even then, much of their legislation failed because the reality is that Congress is deadlocked. It's been deadlocked for a long time. We need to let go of these old measures of what makes somebody an effective politician, is like how many tokens that they've built up. Because like it or not, the reality of politics now is that people need somebody who's a good communicator, who is an aspirational figure, and frankly doesn't have a ton of baggage that can weigh them down. And sometimes like having a long legislative career does that. I would point to Barack Obama as somebody who spent barely any time in the Senate before he went straight for running for president. And one of the reasons he was so successful was that he was a bit of a cipher. He hadn't been in Congress when the Iraq war vote was taken, so that didn't like hang around his neck, and he could say, I didn't vote for the Iraq war.
The time for us to ask how we were going to get out of Iraq was before we went in.
That helped him win. And I think that the more that we kind of back these people that feel like a little bit like outsiders and not like insiders, the better the Democrats will do, because that's what voters want right now. At Yellow Tulips, J.D. Vance changed his name several times. So this is in reference to the part of the video where we talked about Republicans attacking Ocasio-Cortez because she once went by the name Sandy, and at another point in her life, she went by the name Alex, both which are nicknames of Alexandria.
In high school in leafy Westchester County, she was known as Sandy Cortez. But along the way, and most people do not know this, she had still another name. Sandy Cortez went by the name Alex. Just Alex, your friendly neighborhood gender nonspecific bartender. Alex.
To my point that she doesn't have a lot of baggage that they can hang around her neck, the fact that they're going after the fact that she has had different nicknames like almost everybody has had shows that they have nothing on her. And they have spent years going after AOC on all sorts of things, and they still have nothing. I don't know. I feel like that shows she's a strong candidate because the oppo on her is nil. One from Farley Jenkins. What is your all-time favorite book? And Farley, love you, man. I'm gonna have to call bullshit on this question. People who read a lot never have a favorite book. And I read a lot. I'm gonna narrow this down to what book probably changed my life in ways I would have never guessed. And for that, I'm gonna say Last Night a DJ Saved My Life. It's by Bill Brewster and Frank Broughton. It is a history of the DJ, and it is so good. I think about that book more than I care to talk about. It traces DJs from the 1950s and the 1960s to the way that the Italian disco DJs learned how to like cut and scratch, and the hip hop DJs in the 70s built on that, and straight up into the 90s. It really gave me a lot of appreciation that I didn't have before for dance music and for the art of DJing, which is why I'm always like, I am a DJ, but not like those masters, right? But truly, it got me deeply into dance music, and I mostly was a rock and roll head before then, and so I really appreciate how much that's changed the variety of music I listen to. And I do want to shout out user Griffhawk, who said I do look like DJ Barbie, and you have no idea how that touched me. I really enjoyed that comment, thank you. And we have one from Sharon. This is as much a statement as a question. Were you as upset as I was about Janet leaving Slater Kenny, and what do you think of their albums post-Janet? But you know what, I'm gonna read it anyway, Sharon, because I agree with you. What Sharon is talking about is the drummer for Slater Kenny, who's been with them throughout most of their 90s career and afterwards. She wasn't on their first album, but Janet Weiss, she is a badass drummer. She is one of my favorite all-time drummers. I think people who enjoy drummers generally agree that Janet Weiss kicks massive ass. And honestly, it feels like Slater Kenny wasn't quite a rock band without her, even though Carrie Brownstein, she still gets on stage and does a windmill with the guitars and she goes for the rock god thing. But without Janet Weiss, it's true. It wasn't as good. I tried. I did. I even went and saw Slater Kenny play live without Janet. I don't want to diss the new percussion section that they have. I really don't. But it just was not the same. Something was lost. And yeah, their new albums, I listened to them. I could appreciate that they were good. But you know what? I don't put them on over and over again like the old stuff. I hate being that person, but it is what it is. So I really enjoyed answering these questions from y'all. So next time we do this, feel free to reach out, send us some questions. Maybe we'll read them on air. And please don't forget to subscribe to get more Standing Room Only. New episodes drop Thursdays at 5 p.m. and you can find them in your podcast feeds on Friday morning. I'm coming from Latchkey Records in Philadelphia, my partner's record store, and I'm with the band Flatwaves. They have their record listening party tonight. So I want to bring them in to recommend their song Lorraine off their new album. So please, Tara, tell me all about this song.
Lorraine, it's kind of a song about kind of guardian angels, but it's like a potpourri of all sorts of things that have happened also in real life. I drew on a time that me and Allie and Derek, he's elsewhere, were on Catalina in California, and I had this like weird eerie feeling that this woman that got on this truck with us was also kind of like an angel. So I don't know, she worked her way into the song, but yeah.
And her name was Lorraine.
I don't know what this is.
We never got her name. We like to think it was
She
Lorraine.
just felt like a Lorraine.
Lorraine. That's another thing. I was obsessed with the name Lorraine for like 2 months a little while ago. So I just felt like it was a very vintagey sounding name. And not many people are named Lorraine anymore, but a lot of people from my grandparents' generation were, from like the 1920s. And again, like I felt like there were voices from the past that were coming through in my life, and I'm like, Lorraine kind of symboled that.
I know musicians hate it when you ask them about genre.
Oh.
But you guys have been described as shoegaze, and I think a lot of people hear that name and they don't understand that genre and they don't think that it's rock and roll. So why is shoegaze rock and roll? Like, how does it rock out?
It's such an oppressive and immense sound. I feel like it's just like a wall of guitars hitting you, and whether you know it or not, like it's just gonna steamroll you when you hear it. Like, so if you're unfamiliar with it, you're gonna know immediately as soon as you hear it, like the second you're introduced to it.
Yeah, and it can be really, really heavy.
Yeah, and a lot of drums. I think one thing people don't understand is it's like, because like there's so much focus on guitar, but you also have drums.
Yeah.
And it's just like huge rhythm sections.
Huge is a good word.
Yeah, we were going through the mixing process for the album, and the first impression I had was like, are the drums too loud? And everyone's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, I'm pretty sure
You did say that.
I know. He was so self-conscious.
No, leave it.
So the name of the song is Lorraine, and what album is it on?
It is on Tell Me Secrets, which just came out today, July 11th, 2025.
And the band is Flatwaves. Thank y'all. If you want more Standing Room Only episodes, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Standing Room Only started as a newsletter, and it's free to read. Click the link to subscribe. I love tips. These political battles are playing out in our local communities, your family, your school, your neighborhood. If you have a story, go ahead and drop me a line. Leave it in comments, and don't forget to subscribe.